we're talking a lot about this idea of dog fooding, right? That in order to build really a great product, it's important that we are users of that product ourselves. The thing is that now we're operating as the combination of software and service, which means that actually our software is not so much in the hands of our customers, but our own, meaning that we operate the software on behalf of our customers. So it's like a whole new level of dog fooding, because it's not just like we are also using the software that we sell to our customers. No, we are actually operating that software. We're basically building this software for ourselves. I'm Michael Fester. I'm the co-founder and CTO at 14AI.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do
took
next.
many goes to get right.
Who build the teams that have their back.
A company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve
Most
more.
proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was
Yes, we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time. The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took it
you.
off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really want it.
It's not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story. I'm your host, Noah Labhart, and today how Michael Fester is building customer service without limits, replacing the bulk of human work powered by AI. Today's episode is brought to you by .tech Domains, and this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, I was building my startup and went hunting for that perfect .com and found next to nothing. So I did what every founder does, settled. Here's what I wish someone had told me. You're building a tech startup, just get a .tech domain. It instantly tells investors and customers what you're about. Don't overthink it. Get a .tech domain for your startup today. This episode is sponsored by Unblocked. AI code generation is moving fast, but quality and confidence, well, they haven't kept pace. The core problem is shared context. Unblocked was built to solve this specific problem. The code review platform is built on the same context senior engineers rely on when reviewing code. The result is fewer comments, higher signal, and reviews teams actually trust. Get a free 3-week trial at getunblocked.com/codestory. That's getunblocked.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by Mesmo. If your team is collecting large volumes of logs, metrics, and traces, but still struggling to get timely answers, Mesmo can help. Mesmo is an active telemetry platform that processes and enriches observability data in real time before it's stored or analyzed. That means lower data volume, lower cost, and faster root cause analysis across your existing observability tools. To see how it works, get a demo at mesmo.com/codestory. That's MEZMO.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by BrainGrid. If you are building with AI coding tools, but your features keep breaking, you need to check out BrainGrid. It is the product management agent for AI builders. BrainGrid turns messy ideas into clear specs, tasks, and prompts that coding agents like Cursor and Claude can actually build the right way. Ship real software, not fragile prototypes. Start free at braingrid.ai. Michael Fester grew up in Denmark, the son of a French mother and a Danish father. He was always interested in tech, math, and the arts, initially wanting to go into design. However, he did research in number theory at Cambridge and founded his first startup in Paris, which eventually was acquired by Sonos. Outside of tech, he enjoys reading, in particular the classics like Dostoyevsky, and biographies like that of Einstein. He enjoys eating and living healthy and promotes this lifestyle at his current venture. Michael and his team noticed that despite the continual improvement of models, the process of maintaining systems using AI was tedious. Not only did this impact support operations and building software for this area of business, but negatively impacted the customers themselves. He and his wife wanted to build the new standard for how support operations are run. This is the creation story of 14AI.
14AI is an AI native BPO. So BPO is business process outsourcing. This is a term that existed before AI. But now, thanks to AI, a lot of the sort of human labor historically can be done by AI much better, much faster. And so initially we started building the AI software part, meaning AI agents that plug into an operation, here customer support, customer experience. And the goal of these AI agents is to be able to answer customer inquiries as good as possible. So you have a combination of what we call a ticketing system. So this is a piece of software where we get all like customer inquiries in, like email, chat, and voice. And so on top of that, you have AI agents that can start answering chat messages, emails, voice. A lot of companies in this space are focusing on this, meaning you have all these AI bolt-on into classical support systems. And what we've seen in practice is that it's still, despite models being better and better like every month, it's still very hard to orchestrate these AI agents. When you have a new customer inquiry coming in, a new edge case, you end up with this kind of whack-a-mole game where you constantly update the prompts, but then there's regressions and you don't really know exactly where you should put this. Is this a new knowledge article? Is this a new operating procedure? Is this a fine tweaking of the prompt? And even for us with a background in AI, it's difficult at scale to maintain these systems. And so our focus here is, instead of just focusing on the software part, we also provide the service part, meaning that we have a team who are basically in charge of your entire support operation. And this is where we position ourselves as an AI BPO. And the difference obviously is that we're not just answering support tickets. We have AI engineers who are operating the AI agents. And so there's this sort of triangle where there is the software part, and then there's the customer support operations and the AI operations. So these three combined can produce much better results than if you were like siloing the things apart. So that's what we're focusing on.
Let's dive into the MVP. So that first version of 14 AI that you built, how long did it take to build, and what sort of tools were you using to bring it to life?
The first version took a few months. Obviously, we're heavily assisted by AI agents like Cloud Code and Cursor, Codex, and so on. There's all these table stakes features that you basically just need to build, and they need to work well. So things like in proper email integration, or a really great fast chat experience, or the whole agentic side, meaning that you want a knowledge base, you want proper like agent loop with tool calling and so on. We're putting a lot of effort in building the right primitives that allows us to ship really fast as a team, reliably, consistently. So our entire code base is actually in TypeScript. We are using this library called Effect on top of TypeScript, which is, you can see it as a missing standard library in TypeScript that allows you to build scalable systems. So it's heavily influenced by some of the large like systems languages like Scala and Rust, and provides some guarantees that would be hard with a vanilla TypeScript setup. So this is really the foundation of what allows us to build agents for production. And some of the sort of core primitives in building agents is things like concurrency, like structured concurrency. Resumability, can you interrupt a flow? Can properly manage like fallbacks if an LLM is not responding well, or if a tool call is failing.
With that MVP, I want you to dive into maybe a decision or trade-off you had to make when you were approaching that first problem and how you decided to solve it. And that could be technology, yes. It could be approach. It could be all the sort of things. And you kind of touched on a couple on a high level, maybe in your answer, but maybe dive into one and how you coped with that decision.
I've been building software for over a decade now. And there's always the question of how can you keep the velocity up while keeping the quality and sort of the feature set as complete and good as possible. And we're talking a lot about this idea of dog fooding, right? That in order to build really a great product, it's important that we are users of that product ourselves. But the thing is that now we're operating as the combination of software and service, which means that actually our software is not so much in the hands of our customers, but our own, meaning that we operate the software on behalf of our customers. So it's like a whole new level of dog fooding, because it's not just like we are also using the software that we sell to our customers. No, we are actually operating that software. We're basically building this software for ourselves. Obviously, there's a lot of things that we don't need to worry too much about. We don't need to worry too much about an onboarding process. That can be it doesn't have to be completely like smooth, because we're building this for ourselves. And I think this is the key for our velocity, is that we are basically the sole users of most of the features. We obviously have some software features that we're exposing to our customers, but the whole operating part, the heart of the engine, that is used strictly by ourselves. It means that we can go very quickly straight to the problem and just solve that and then move on. Yeah, that's how we approach it. And it also means that we want the people who built the software to also operate the software. So our whole team is involved in helping solve customer support tickets when our AI can't, because solving these tickets, basically being in the middle of the operation, gives us so much more insight into the automations and the pieces of the software that we need to build. So we all rotate on shifts on like basically using our software and then immediately building whatever we need to run it more smoothly.
Today's episode is brought to you by .tech domains, and this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, when I was building my own tech startup, I went on the hunt for that elusive .com. Looked high, looked low, and guess what I found? Nothing. What I did find cost me an arm and a leg. So I did what every founder does under pressure. Threw in extra letters, settled for the less than optimal name. And here's what I wish someone had said to me back then. Noah, you're building a tech startup. Just get a .tech domain. Tech startup, .tech domain. It could not be more obvious. It tells investors, customers, and anyone who looks at your website, really, that tech is at the core of your build. And I've kicked myself plenty since. Especially when I see the clean and sharp names tech companies have landed on .tech. Nothing.tech, 1x.tech, Aurora.tech, CES.tech, Ultra.tech, Alice.tech, Neon.tech, Blaze.tech, Pi.tech. You get the idea. So take it from someone who learned it the hard way. If you're building a tech startup, don't overthink it. Get a .tech domain. This episode is sponsored by BrainGrid. Building with AI coding tools is exciting until the moment things start breaking. You ask for a small change and suddenly 3 other features stop working. AI gets confused, misses edge cases, and loses track of your intent. The problem is not code generation. The problem is planning. That is why BrainGrid exists. BrainGrid acts as your product management agent. It writes clear specification, maps UX flows, asks the clarifying questions you forgot to ask, and breaks big ideas into engineering-grade tasks that AI coding tools can build reliably. It guides Cursor, Claude Code, Replit, Windsurf, and others so they deliver features that work and keep working. Founders use BrainGrid to build real AI-native SaaS products without a technical background. If you want reliable features instead of fragile prototypes, try BrainGrid for free at braingrid.ai. That's braingrid.ai. Actually, a really interesting point to move into my next question, which is, okay, you've got that MVP, it's working, and then you are iterating on it internally, right? Because you're building it for yourself. How did you go about building your roadmap? How did you go about deciding that, okay, this is the next most important thing to build or to address with 14 AI?
So it's all driven by customers, either existing customers who need something specific or something that we can improve, or new customer where we see an interesting opportunity. And so we would build an initial version to show them and then put it in production. So roadmaps are really short here, not just because there's constant like demand and updates into the requests and the demands, but I think also another thing is that AI just allows us to ship so fast. So we don't need to plan very far ahead when we have a feature. And so we can really be focused on the micro wins in terms of adding new capabilities and so on. So we are all here in person. This is very important. We work under the same roof here in the heart of San Francisco. Our roadmap is reassessed every week. So every Sunday at night, we have a big whiteboard and we wipe it clean. And we discuss what is the priorities for the week. What did we achieve in the past week? And moving forward, what do we need to focus on? Is there anything from past week we need to continue focusing on, or is that no longer relevant? Things just move really fast. We try to be as lean and adaptive as possible. And frankly, most of the features, either they're shipped within a few days or they don't make sense 2 weeks in. So that's the way that we always keep velocity high and adapt.
I hear you saying we. How did you build your team? And what did you look for in those people to indicate that they were the winning horses to join you?
So there's lots of things here. The team needs to be obviously good at what they do. That's self-evident. The team also needs to be very well versed in AI tooling. So being very fluent in understanding how we can basically automate ourselves out of the job of a software engineer. Because I think 4 months ago, I was estimating that 80% of the code that I shipped was generated by AI. Now it's basically 100%. I almost don't code anymore. And that part is really important. AI, if you know how to use it well, it can basically do all the work that I used to do as a software engineer. So very well versed on that front. Obviously, we are working very hard. We're all here in person. So that sort of grit and excitement to join a company that is in the trenches. We're on a very hot topic, right? Like customer service is a very hot topic. And we need this sort of winning mentality. People who are just excited by giving it all, learning a lot and putting in the effort. In terms of the hiring process, I've been conducting hundreds of interviews, and throughout the past year, I've seen a lot of things like change. I'd say starting a year and a half ago, things started to change a lot in terms of what I was sensing of initial conversations with potential candidates. The way that we approach hiring is we have this set of steps that we go through. The first is just a half-hour, very simple technical interview, where the goal of the interview is to get a sense of how people think when they don't have AI. So we ask candidates to answer a certain technical question, build a little piece of code without AI. And that part is so simple that AI really shouldn't be needed. If you have some basic understanding of how coding work, you shouldn't be using AI. But what we've seen is that not only more people were using AI behind the scenes, despite the fact that we were asking not to do it. So we already get a sense of the mindset, the integrity of people. That's a very important thing for us to test. But we've also seen that people are getting more and more dependent on AI to the point where it's hard to think clearly. And that's a very important thing that we look for when we hire someone, is that even if you are going to use AI basically for 100% of your work, is your brain still on? You see what I mean? And so that's a very important thing that we think about, because obviously your work is going to be requiring some neurons here, not just in coding, but also the whole approach to prioritizing features, to understanding customer needs, to actually be solving customer problems.
This episode is sponsored by Mesmo. If you're responsible for reliability, performance, or platform architecture, you already know the problem. Telemetry volume is growing faster than teams can manage it. Mesmo addresses this by moving observability upstream. Instead of storing everything and asking questions later, Mesmo processes telemetry in motion, filtering, transforming, and enriching logs, metrics, and traces before they reach your observability backend. The result is cleaner data, reduced ingestion costs, and faster root cause analysis using the tools you already rely on. Mesmo integrates with platforms like Datadog, Dynatrace, and open source stacks, giving teams more control without adding operational overhead. This is especially useful for platform engineers and SREs supporting complex distributed systems where context and speed matter. To see how active telemetry works in practice, get a demo at mesmo.com/codestory. That's MEZMO.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by Unblocked. There's a good chance you've already tried a few AI code review tools, and you're probably ignoring most of their comments. Not because AI can't review code, but because it's missing context. Most AI reviewers focus on surface-level issues, style nits, obvious refactors, or restating what's already clear from the diff. Meanwhile, the things you actually care about, like whether a change violates an earlier architectural decision or quietly duplicates existing logic, go unnoticed. That's the problem Unblocked is built to solve. Unblocked's AI code review is grounded in decision-grade context, prior PRs, design discussions, documentation, and system-level constraints, the same context senior engineers rely on when reviewing code. Teams using Unblocked report fewer comments, higher signal, and automated reviews they actually trust, enough that many have turned off other review tools entirely. Even if you've already written off AI code review, Unblocked is worth a look. Get a free 3-week trial at getunblocked.com/codestory. That's getunblocked.com/codestory. Okay, let's move into scalability. And this will be interesting because you're building, the product and it's based on AI and it's probably inherently scalable in how it's used, but there's also services built in. So there's, two different types of scale challenges and issues there. How did you approach scalability perhaps in the beginning, or have there been interesting areas where you've had to fight it as you've grown?
I think scalability to me is a very important ingredient here is simplicity. Systems scale better when they are inherently simple, meaning that you can reason about problems in sort of unconvoluted way. If systems are knotted together with lots of dependencies that are unclear, and when you add new components to it, you add to the complexity, then at some point it gets impossible to reason about. And so this is why we've taken the choices. We've put a lot of effort in building the right foundation. As I mentioned, effect is a very important part of this because it's inherently simple. Not saying that effect is easy. There's a learning curve, but the concepts themselves are conceptually, they're simple things. They are very modular, composable, very much from the functional programming ethos that systems should be able to compose and be self-contained. And you should have a good understanding of the entire graph flow of the software, meaning that you should have things like type safety that guarantees that, your system is working as expected. Our approach to scalability here really is to think about the problems in isolation and then being able to compose them together into larger systems in a way that is easy to reason on because you have the right primitives. Yeah.
So as you step out on the balcony, you look across all that you've built thus far with 14 AI, what are you most proud of?
What I'm most proud of is the team. The team is completely obsessed by the customer experience. We like to see ourselves as a concierge for our customers, meaning that we take away a lot of not just work, but a lot of worries of operating a team. So we're that team now, and we are very close to our customers. We're very responsive. We listen to them, we meet them, and we transform their anticipations into product experiences, customer experiences. I think this is fundamentally driving the way that we think about our software as well. If this software can genuinely delight not just our customers, but importantly their customers, then we will succeed. So I think building this culture of doing great work, customer-focused, delighting our customers, I think this is the most important thing that we have done here.
Let's flip the script a little bit. Michael, tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
I think a mistake that we made early on is not to say no enough. This is a very complex space in the sense that the software that we're building is not a one-size-fits-all. Every single team out there has their own way of running a support operation. And the challenge here is to make sure that you are focused on the right problems and not spreading yourself thin. And I think early on, we were saying yes to a lot of things. And obviously we did it also to learn. But I think we could have probably been a bit more efficient in really looking at some of the yellow flags in maybe a customer that was not a right fit for us. And it ended up you spending a lot of our time and our sort of mind, and without having the impact that we really wanted it to be. So I think this is a common pattern to everyone, is the ability to make the hard decisions of saying no, even though you really want to go there.
Well, this will be fun. Let's move forward then. What does the future look like for 14 AI? For the product, for the team, for the services, for all the things you offer. Tell me what the future looks like.
Most of our focus now is not on the software part. That part is running. This is in production. It is working really well. And we're doing smaller incremental changes, but the foundation is now battle tested and proven. Our focus now is really on the upside of things. So the operations, meaning scaling the human part of the team because of the nature of what we're doing here. So making sure that we can accommodate new customers. Some customers are very large with a heavy operations part. And so the focus now is really to ramp up on that front.
Okay, let's switch to you, Michael. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to and why.
My co-founder, who is also my wife. So Marie and I, we started 14 AI together. We both built companies in the past. And so we saw each other grow as founders in our respective companies. And we started helping each other more and more behind the scenes and realized that we were super complementary. And it was clear for us that one day it was a dream that we could build a company together from scratch. And again, as of today, it's the same thing. We are complementary. We trust each other enormously. And because we cover different aspects, we inspire each other a lot on the way that we think about problems and the way that we deal with problems, and we energize each other all the time. And so this is really, for me, it's really a driving force into becoming a better founder, becoming a better team member. And so, yeah, that's my main source of inspiration.
Okay, last question, Michael. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world. And can't we show it off to you right there on the plane? What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit?
I think the common advice of listen to your customers, ship fast. Don't spend too much time perfecting the product, because you'll never know. When it gets into the hands of customers, that's where you actually learn. Be focused on that. Be completely obsessed about your customer. You don't want to build a solution that is looking for a problem, right? You want to start with a problem and then retrofit a solution. And that problem, it's easy to say, yeah, I've found the problem, but that could still be ill-defined. And the only real way that you will understand, is this actually a problem, is to get it out in the hands of people to solve that problem. And then you'll see that sometimes your priors were not correct. Either it's a small adjustment, or you realize that it's a more fundamental issue and that you should probably be focusing on something else. So I think being focused on customers, being focused on the market, is there actual a market here, is just essential. And then you'll figure out the product that can serve that market.
I think that's fantastic advice. Well, Michael, thank you for being on the show today, and thank you for telling the creation story of 14 AI.
Of course. It was a pleasure, Noah.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.
At Verbo, we understand that even the best of plans sometimes need a little support. So we plan for the plot twists. Every booking is automatically backed by our Verbo Care Guarantee, giving you confidence from the very start. Whenever you need help, it's ready. Before your stay, through the moments in between, and after your trip. Because a great trip starts with peace of mind. And maybe a good playlist. But we've got the peace of mind part covered.